Trump supporter, just know that there are 4 things that everybody who's not a Trump supporter thinks about you. And so far, you've done nothing to disprove these things. 1, you're uneducated. And I don't mean uneducated in the sense that you didn't go to school and learn to read or do basic arithmetic. I mean, you're uneducated as far as what's going on in the world. You got goggles on, only paying attention to what you want to pay attention to. Dose, you lack empathy. You don't care what happens to somebody else as long as it doesn't happen to you. Imagine for a moment the government started saying, hey, your marriage is illegal. How would you feel about that? How would you feel about that? But you don't care that it's happening to gay people as long as it doesn't happen to you. 3, you lack independent thinking skills, meaning you are incapable of forming your own thoughts, opinions, or viewpoints on things. You need pundit talking points from Fox News or whatever, that other OAN. You need those people to tell you what to believe. You don't have the ability to look into those claims and maybe think something else. It's a confirmation bias. You live in this bubble and you refuse to step outside of it. 4, and I think this is the most important one. I think this is the one you really need to work on if you have the ability, and that is critical thinking. Critical thinking is the ability to look at a situation and say to yourself, you know what, that's kind of fucked up. That's not right, and you can't do that. So I look forward to all the laughing emoji reactions to this video, because the people that I just made these claims about don't have the ability to defend themselves. So they do so just with the laughing emoji. So fire away.
It's really interesting how every time I post about the work that Texans are doing and how Texans are fighting against this regime, I always get comments like this. Oh, Texans deserve what's happening to them. You voted for this. And by interesting, I actually mean it's stupid. You've got this guy here I bet nobody in there listened to VP Kamala Harris. Not only did I listen to VP Kamala Harris, I was an invited guest in the VP's house multiple times and introduced her before one of her speeches. I promise you that you did not outwork me this election cycle behind your keyboard. I promise you that. And you all want to claim people like Jasmine Crockett. Where do you think Jasmine learned how to fight? Here in Texas, in the Texas House. Because we've been fighting these battles by ourselves for a long ass time while you've been sitting in your blue ivory towers looking down on us saying it's never going to happen to me, and now here we are. And when you leave comments like this of, oh, Texans deserve it, this is what they voted for, what you're actually doing is perpetuating the rights talking point for them, that our rights should be dependent on zip code. That's how they overturned Roe. So congratulations that you would rather point the finger than work on progress with us, because until you're ready to go and do the fight in the hard places, we're not turning this car around.
Welcome back to Echo Room Vibes, where we break down the latest social and political realities, especially those FAFO moments where folks who effed around are now finding out. And today, it's Nebraska farmers who are feeling it. A growing number of MAGA-supporting farmers in Nebraska are realizing they voted against their own survival, and now the consequences are hitting home. We've seen the videos, the interviews, and the stitches, farmers breaking down, angry, confused, and regretting their choices. But the real question is, did they really not see this coming? Let's get into it. And before we start, credit to all the original creators and stitches who've been breaking this down and sharing these firsthand experiences. Y'all are doing the work.
Maybe y'all saw the news out of Nebraska today. Apparently our entire state is going to go bankrupt in 2 quarters. Me and my husband owned a cattle ranch here, and I can confirm that all of the cattle ranchers here overwhelmingly voted for Trump. We support him. We voted for him. Something like 70% of our entire workforce is undocumented immigrants, and they straight up are not showing up for work anymore. They have all either fled the country, fled the state. They don't want to get raided while at work, so they have just moved on to work somewhere else. And straight up, we are gonna go bankrupt now. We are gonna go bankrupt, and yeah, we voted. We knew that the immigrants would get deported, and he was coming after immigrants, yet we still voted for it. Overwhelmingly voted for our own demise. I was talking to my husband last night, and I have to admit that it seems a bit foolish now when you think about it like that we voted for something that is now putting us directly out of business.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is something going on here in America, and even some MAGA Republicans are fed up. So Representative Diana Harshbarger was in East Tennessee yesterday holding a town hall, and she called Donald Trump's victory a mandate, and the crowd shot that down right away, started booing her. Many of these people, Republicans, ladies and gentlemen, Republicans. It's very important to note. Then you have Representative Keith Self. He held a town hall in Wiley, Texas, and there were chants of vote him out, and he left the stage. Again, many of his constituents, many of these people, Republicans. And I also found it extremely interesting. Roger Marshall, who's a complete douchebag and a MAGA moron, also held a town hall. And he's a senator in Kansas, and he holds this town hall in Kansas. One of his constituents, a veteran, stands up and says he's worried about veterans losing their jobs. Literally 20 seconds later, he gets up and leaves, and he doesn't even answer the question, and then he's booed. Democrat Congressman Tom Suozzi received a huge standing ovation in a Trump +5 congressional district at Hofstra University after talking about how despicable Donald Trump was, his behavior in the Oval Office with Vladimir Zelensky. Ladies and gentlemen, there's something going on in America. All this stuff happened just over the weekend. People are getting fed up. There is buyer's remorse. We know we have that on the left, but we're getting that more on the right now as people are losing their jobs, people are losing their livelihoods, and they're getting no explanation from the Trump administration, and they're certainly not getting any explanation from the people who are supposed to be working for them that are Republicans, who many of these people voted for. They're getting booed out of these events, and I think it's saying something as to where we are at right now as America. People are fucking fed up.
Since the election, everyone has reminded me that I thought Kamala Harris was going to win. Everyone has reminded me that she didn't win and Donald Trump won. I've seen it over and over and over again. But what I also said was if Donald Trump did win, it would be a disaster for farmers and oil workers. Because last time Donald Trump was president, it was a disaster for farmers and oil workers. Now, he really hasn't gotten to oil workers yet. But hey, farmers, how you doing? Yeah, you see, the last time Donald Trump was president, over 100,000 farms went belly up in America. So here he runs for president again, and what do you farmers do? Yeah, you vote for him again. And I don't understand why, but it's one of those cases where you effed around and now you're going to find out again. Because apparently he didn't do enough damage the first time. You wanted to see it a second time. So here we are.
I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care?
The state of Nebraska has fucked around and found out as they are ready to go bankrupt in the next 6 months. Their state's economy relies heavily on agriculture, and over 70% of their workforce is from undocumented immigrants. Knowing this, they voted for Trump, hoping that he would get rid of the undocumented immigrants. And now they are severely understaffed across the entire state, unable to find enough workers to replace the undocumented immigrants who supplied their state with enough workforce. This is the find out stage of fuck around and find out. In the next 6 months, the state of Nebraska will be entirely bankrupt, unable to support itself, and be looking for a bailout from the federal government. All because they let their racism and hate towards immigrants be more important than their economic livelihoods. There's nothing to feel bad about here. They voted for this. They knew exactly what they were voting for. Now they have what they wanted. Let's see how it turns out for them.
Does anyone even care about Nebraska?
Don't nobody give a damn about Nebraska right now. Not a one person. 65% of your workforce was undocumented labor who took care of all of your agricultural needs. And you, as a state, collectively decided that you were going to vote for the other guy so that way you could get rid of all of the quote-unquote illegals. What you didn't take a moment to reconsider was that these quote-unquote illegals who were doing the biggest job in your entire state for the littlest cost was exactly how essential they were to all of you. And now, whether it's because they fled or because ICE has raided all of your entire workforce, your farming industry has literally sunk into the toilet. And did you really think white people were going to take those jobs? Do you know how grueling it is to get up every morning at the butt crack of dawn to pull crops and to sit out there and work for pennies? You transparent looking motherfuckers wouldn't be able to handle 10 minutes of that. So no, don't nobody feel sorry for Nebraska right now. You got what you voted for, now figure it the fuck out.
What's happening? The harsh reality. All right, so here's the deal. Nebraska farmers overwhelmingly supported policies that were supposed to make America great again, but those same policies are now destroying their way of life. Some of the biggest issues hitting them right now include massive tariffs and trade wars. Many farmers were excited when Trump talked about tougher trade deals and putting America first, but they didn't realize that meant losing critical export markets. China, once a major buyer of U.S. agricultural products, has turned to other countries, leaving American farmers struggling to sell their crops. Government subsidies cut. The same farmers who said they wanted less government interference are now begging for federal aid because the market is no longer in their favor. Turns out, they needed those subsidies more than they thought. Skyrocketing costs, fuel, fertilizer, and equipment costs are at record highs, making it harder for farmers to turn a profit. And with the labor shortage hitting hard, many of them are realizing the immigrants they wanted out were actually the backbone of their workforce. The regret is real, but who's getting blamed? And here's where it gets real interesting. Instead of taking full accountability, a lot of these farmers are looking for someone to blame. Some are blaming Biden, even though these trade policies started years ago. Others are pointing fingers at big corporations, forgetting that deregulation, something they supported, gave those corporations the power to price them out of their own industry. And of course, some are bringing up race, as if black and brown communities had anything to do with them voting for policies that directly hurt them. It's a mix of regret, anger, and denial. But at the end of the day, this is the America they voted for. Lessons from the past. Will they ever learn? We've seen this happen before. Coal miners who voted against environmental protections only to lose their jobs. Southern states cutting federal assistance, then panicking when their hospitals shut down. MAGA supporting truckers realizing deregulation destroyed their industry. The pattern is the same. Vote against your own interest, suffer the consequences, and then act shocked when reality hits. The question is, will Nebraska farmers finally wake up, or will they continue to vote for policies that make their own lives harder? So what do we take from all of this? FAFO is undefeated. Voting matters. If you don't understand policy, you'll suffer from it. We're watching the same story play out again, and unless something changes, it's only going to get worse. What do y'all think? Will Nebraska farmers finally learn, or is this just another cycle of regret with no accountability? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And as always, if you're vibing with Echo Room Vibes, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Stay informed, stay aware, and until next time, peace.